So a big pay-per-view coming up for the WWE. Not as big as if Keith Lee was still on the roster and part of it, but
Literally.
what are you going to do? Yeah, literally. Survivor Series, November 21st. We have everything pretty much sorted out at this point. SmackDown, when we're recording this, we still don't know who the last member will be at this point of both the men's SmackDown Survivor Series team and the women's SmackDown Survivor Series team. But otherwise, we've got pretty much everything else set. Maybe add in another match or two. But let's preview the card as is right now. So we're going to pull up the card here, go through these matches, see how we feel. So first up, the big one, right? The big dog. Now, I mean, he's not called the big dog anymore, but he was for the longest time. The big dog. I kind of wish he was the big dog. The big dog at the table.
Oh, you mean the big dog?
Yeah.
That's my Michael Cole impression.
God. Yeah, that's the one. I mean, that was spot on. It literally gave me an instant migraine because it sounded so much like Michael Cole.
Sorry, everybody.
I'm sorry you guys had to listen to that, watch that. So we got Roman Reigns, who is, on the best run of his career, right? Fantastic heel turn, has held on to that belt for, I don't remember how many days now, but it's got to be close.
It's over a year.
It's over a year, yeah. And had,
Pretty sure.
I believe so. If not, it's very close to a year. But, just has had this incredible run with, the Usos and the whole family thing. Heyman, it's great. And then you've got the new champ, Big E, who, recently, or at least semi-recently crowned champion. Fan favorite. Everybody loves him. Locker room praises him so much. This might be the match I'm most excited for. Because when you look at this, right, they've really protected Roman here throughout this entire run, obviously. But this is the first time in a long time where I could see Big E going over and Roman legitimately losing. I know that's controversial to say, but and that might not happen, but at least I can believe it as a fan. Like this is a possibility, right? This isn't like, oh, okay, it's Roman versus Xavier Woods, who I love very much, but if he was fighting Roman at the pay-per-view, we all know how that would go, right? So there's some intrigue here for me. Drake, how do you feel about this match?
I'm actually surprised that you said that because I feel like there's just no way that they're gonna let Roman lose this, and it's one of the things I hate kind of about the Survivor Series concept. Like if you look back at the Brock match when he was last champion, which wasn't last year, but when he took on Daniel Bryan, and excellent stuff. It was a great match, and very much was believing that Bryan was going to pull it off. I think he should have pulled it off because I think it doesn't hurt Brock too much, and I feel the same way here, where it doesn't really hurt Roman because he's still going to be champ afterwards, and it just boosts your other champion up that much more to beat the bigger champion in a sense, right? So I think it would be way smarter, I mean, in terms of long-term investment for at least both champions, Big E more so obviously, if you were to elevate him by beating Roman. Roman still has the title. It doesn't even have to be clean because obviously the New Day element there,
right?
But either way, if he's getting a win, I think it would be fine. I think that's what should happen, but I feel like there's no way, because historically we've seen it where, like with Brock, they just don't want to put anyone over the guy. Whoever's the guy, they can't help. They don't care for having two big, champions. At least they haven't for a good while. And maybe it'll be different with Big E because of the fact that he's not as small as Bryan, like that kind of thing might play a part in it, and just how likable Big E is. Not to say Bryan wasn't at the time, but he was a heel at the time, which could also be a factor for it, where in this case you have the classic heel versus babyface. But yeah, I would just be surprised if they were to do the right thing. Let's leave it that way.
Yeah, that's fair, especially when you're talking about WWE booking, right? Like they're notorious for what you just talked about. You've got the guy, they're protected, they win regardless. Especially you add in the whole Kevin Owens element that's been now kind of going with that's probably Big E's next big challenger. He could run in, do some interference. There's a lot of ways you could book this. You're probably right. It still is the most I've ever questioned Roman maybe losing, right, in a long time.
Really? More than the Demon Finn?
Yeah, a little bit more than the Demon Finn. Although I will say that one was particularly, you know what, actually, because you brought that up, because I kind of etched that out of my memory. Fair now enough. I am 100% sure that Roman's going to win by some ridiculous method, because that was awful. It should be a good match regardless, right? I expect to see this to be a high-level match that will really live up to the spot of a main event, especially with these two guys. They're good workers. I assume there's going to be a lot of cool aspects to it. I'm assuming you're going to get the Usos and the New Day involved, maybe Kevin Owens, who knows. But I like the match as it's booked, and it's easy because it's Survivor Series, so it's champ versus champ. But yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. So I would give this, I don't know, I would give this, where do you want to rank this one on the night? In terms of, let's see, how many matches we got here. I think we have 7 listed. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 listed right now. So 1 out of 6. Where, in anticipation, where are you ranking this guy?
Yeah, this would be number 1, most anticipated. I think pretty easily for me. Yeah, we'll get to the rest of the card, obviously.
Yeah. I'm actually gonna go number 2 on this one.
Okay.
And we'll get to my number 1. Yeah, but I mean, yeah.
I think I have a hunch.
You might. We'll see. You never know. But yeah. I mean, all right. Let's move on to the next match we have here. So this is the traditional 5v5 men's Survivor Series. For Team Raw, you've got Bobby Lashley, Austin Theory, Kevin Owens, Finn Balor, and Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre, Jeff Hardy, Xavier Woods, Happy Corbin, and a to be determined. I'm not bringing up MVP and the other guys whose name is escaping me right now.
Is it Madcap Moss now?
Madcap Moss now. That's right. That's his new name. Yeah, I mean,
not now. I just said that. That's his name now.
That's his name right now. Yes. So, I mean, I don't know who's going to get slotted into that last spot. If I paid attention more to the weekly shows, I would know this, but I don't have the time.
That's what I.
Yeah. So we're gonna take it as face value here. How do you feel about this one? I like a lot of these players and think that you could have some really great spots, but I don't know. For me, it comes down to who they end up, tagging in and eliminating in that sequence. Because I could see a lot of really cool spots here, and I could also see it being booked in a way where it's like, okay, you got the occasional cool spot, or, oh, that's an interesting matchup, but they don't work that well, and then that's kind of it, right? And it's a Survivor Series match, so I'll be honest here. They can get a little bit messy and aren't, known for being the best matches. You have a couple that stand out in the annals of history, but most men's Survivor Series matches aren't the highlight of the pay-per-view, right? Is that your feeling, Drake, or am I off base here?
No, I think that's certainly fair. I mean, there have been a couple, like you said, but a couple. It's a couple. The only that I can remember. I think what stands out to me is kind of when the latest version of DX was around, kind of back then, and when the Hardy Boys were involved as well. Which we got Jeff here, which I love to see. But in this match in particular, Pat, when it comes to how it's gonna go, I'm glad that you kind of mentioned the eliminations and all that. And if I'm gonna make some fairly specific predictions here, I'm gonna get a little bit bold. And I don't even care who the extra person for SmackDown is going to be. But I think that Raw is going to eliminate everybody down to Woods and McIntyre. And Woods will get taken out. And then it'll be, I'm going to say McIntyre versus everybody. And he's going to whittle it down to maybe Lashley and pull it off. I think they'll just give Drew that push to get him back. A little bit, give him a little bit of help there, just to get him back up top a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing that sucks, right? Is when you look at that makes a lot of sense. I don't think that's too bold a prediction, and I would love to see Drew go over another, person outside of Lashley, because we've seen Drew and Lashley a
But that's
bunch.
why I'm predicting that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I mean, like when you look at the rest of Raw, right? If you're assuming SmackDown's going to win, and you look at the rest of the Raw team, there's no one that they could really have go over without kind of hurting them.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe Austin Theory, but I'm assuming he's going to be out pretty fast unless they're pushing him big and he somehow pulls off the last win or something like that.
Something involving him and Jeff, I'm sure.
Yeah, right. But I mean, that's the thing. I'm sure they'll do a spot with him and Jeff. I'm sure you'll end up with at least a spot of Drew and Lashley. That's kind of the things I don't like. I could also see it being, though, rather than Drew being the last man in, I could easily see them doing Woods versus Owens because of the Big E tie-in, right? And then having Owens win or Woods, depending on which way they want to go. I would say if you get down to Woods and Owens, more likely Owens gets the win for Raw.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, you can kind of get a sense of how they're going to book this one. Yeah, it could be very good. It could be meh. I don't know that it will be that bad because you've got so many guys in here. A lot of people would have to really mess up for it to be a real bad match, right?
Yeah.
You got some big names, veterans. I think you're probably going to end up with at worst an okay match. So where do you rank this one?
Let's see. I might say 4, around 4 maybe, somewhere in the middle, lower to the end. I don't know. I don't think the teams against it. Like, I like a lot of the names here, but if you were to shuffle them up and mix it up a bit more, but obviously they're on their respective brands. I would like it a bit more, but if Jeff doesn't just eliminate all of Team Raw, then I'm just going to be upset. So.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, for me, this is 4 or 5. I mean, honestly, because again, it's really depends on how it's booked, and I don't.
I'm actually going to put this at 5 for me.
Yeah, I'm going to put it at 5 too. The more I think about it, looking at the other matchups, yeah, I'm going to go 5. So yeah, all right, that's our talk there. Let us know if you think it should be higher. Obviously, we have our thoughts on that one, but we'll keep going. Next, we have the women's match, and so spoiler alert here. If we put the men's match at 5, yeah, let's see. Let's see if you guys might know where we put this one. Let's take a look at this match here. So you've got newly crowned Queen of the Ring, Zelina Vega, Carmella, Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley, and Sasha, or not Sasha, sorry, she's on Team SmackDown. Bianca Belair on Team Raw. On SmackDown, you've got Sasha Banks, Shayna Baszler, Shotzi Blackheart, and Natalya with we don't know who's being drafted on SmackDown yet. Again, I don't have a good guess off the top of my head of where is Nikki Ash on SmackDown? No, because she's on Raw with Rhea, right? So yeah, I don't think it'll be Nikki. So yeah, I don't know who's going to be drafted in SmackDown, and I'm sure in the comments we're getting roasted right now for the comments like what I just made. But sorry guys, it is what it is. Feel free to roast us and correct us, please. So yeah, look at this match. Again, comes down to the way that they, position people. Here, I would say I am a big fan of Ripley. Bianca and Sasha obviously have had fantastic match at Mania, right? That was when Bianca won the belt. That was at Mania. Right. Yeah, I mean that was the highlight of that night's WrestleMania by far. You've got a lot of talent here. Natalia's always a solid worker. You also have, I mean, I don't know. You have interesting matchups that could be made here, but if you're playing it out on what makes sense from a storyline perspective, I think you're going to get a lot of rehashes. I expect at least one Bianca versus Sasha spot, hopefully. But I don't know. I mean, what do you think on this one? Do you have a sense? Do you have a sense the same way you did on the men's, where you might have a prediction of who wins?
Not really. I mean, I think when you look at who the big time players are, they're literally right in the front on that graphic. Yep. That's the top three right there. And then, I mean, in order, kind of. You know, I mean, maybe not Shotzi over Natalya. I mean, maybe right now, but
right.
I don't know. In all honesty, I just don't care too much about this. Like you said, it's the mashup. Like, if you were to separate things a bit, like them separately, much more interested in. But the way they're all combined, it just doesn't do it for me. And in general, Pat, we were talking about this off air. These brand versus brand matches are really, historically, there have been a couple good, like we just mentioned, but generally they just don't mean shit, you know. Like, I can't care for it. So if you guys didn't figure out, this was 6 for me, because it's nothing against the ladies, but at all. But I don't know, this just doesn't do it. The combination of everything. Sure, it'll be fun. I really do think it'll probably end up being pretty fun. But in terms of my excitement, I just don't really care, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, this could be a phenomenal match, right? I will say there are enough players here. We're not talking about the Divas division has come so far in the past several years, and I could easily see with who is involved in this, if they pull it off, they could have a really great match. I legitimately think that. On paper, though, stacked up against the rest of the card, I also have to put this at 6. It's just not the one I'm that excited about. I fully expect, you know, unless they're pulling a crazy swerve here, I fully expect Team Raw to win. I expect Liv to probably go over, since that's who they're really setting up. I mean, if I look on the other side, right, I'm not sure who you're going to end up pushing. I guess Shotzi, but I don't think they're really pushing her the same way as Liv right now. So to me, it makes all the sense in the world that Liv goes over as the last women standing, and Raw gets the win. So I've got to do 6 for this one as well. So let us know how you feel again. Feel free to correct us if we're way off base here. Love to hear your thoughts. All right, we are on to the Women's Championship match. Becky Lynch versus Charlotte Flair. Now, this one is interesting for a lot of reasons. If you followed interviews with Becky Lynch as of late, she's just kind of been
today.
Just today. She's been airing it out there. She was on the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani in studio, and you know, there is some legit friction between these two. No work, no nothing. If you've read other dirt sheets the past couple months, you read things about this. Obviously, the Nia Jax Charlotte Flair match, which was, you know, something in and of itself. And now Nia is gone, so you got that. But I mean, this match is interesting to me more so for the drama outside of the ring than the storyline. I mean, this is legit. Could turn into a shoot fight at some point, right? I don't know. I guess here's the thing. Knowing what we know from various reports and Lynch's interviews, and even Charlotte responding and Ric Flair responding, right? Being like, "Oh, I have balls," and all this stuff. I'm not sure who goes over here, because I feel like if Lynch is supposed to go over, Charlotte may legitimately try and botch it. I don't know. I guess, Drake, who do you think is supposed to get the win here?
Oh, Becky, for sure.
Becky,
100%. Yeah. I have no question about that. But I know, Pat, this is your number one, right?
Oh,
this is, you know,
this is it. Yeah, big reveal. Yeah, of course, this is my number one. Yes.
This is 2 for me, and for all the reasons you mentioned. But historically, these two put on great matches. They really do. So if there's no funny business, this will end up being great. But since I think it's probably safe to assume that it'll maybe, who knows? Maybe they'll patch things up before then, work it out. Probably not. And it'll go nice and smooth sailing.
Again, just to reiterate, we're taping this on the 18th. This match happens in 3 days. And today, Becky Lynch went on the MMA Hour and just buried Flair. So yes, maybe they do make up in 3 days. But yes, go on, Drake.
Hey, wishful thinking. To get a good one out of it. But it's very weird and hard to predict in that sense. And it's great for the option and ability to add this to an angle, or the angle of the match, because they probably won't extend it because they're separate champions. No point to do that. We've seen it done to death. I mean, it's silly, honestly, that they're actually going against each other again because of how often we have seen it. So that's what that is. But I feel like in a perfect WWE world where they were to build off of the real heat, they would end up giving us a Becky win via DQ.
Yeah.
That's how that would happen. I think that's going to be our prediction, is that they are going to work that into all of this. Will it be smooth up until that point? Unlikely, as you're obviously believing as well. But of course, we know what these two can do when together, but the fact that this will be one of their best or anything is unlikely. And then the finish, of course, why would Charlotte lose cleanly at this point? Right. Why would she allow that? So,
well, and I want to, run with something you said there about you don't think it'll be one of their best, but this is where the reason why this is number one for me, drama aside, and the potential of what that could mean in ring, is that if WWE does, seize that moment, which we've seen them do in certain cases, right? You saw it with Punk forever ago. You saw it with Becky when she became the man. They occasionally seize the moment and realize, wait a minute, we can just run with this. If they book it to make it look like a shoot fight, I think that could end up being really great. Personally, because I think you could then be intrigued by, oh man, is this just like crazy out of line? They still have to perform to a caliber where it's believable and you really think it is a shoot and you're not quite sure if it's a work or a shoot. But I think these two can do that. And if it's written that way, I think this could be one of their best matches. That's why it's number one for me.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely a fair and smart approach, I think, if you're WWE, but easier said than done to make that happen, right? So there's a lot of mystery with it. There really is, which is fun. I like that. But I mean, that's what intrigues me most about professional wrestling these days, is exactly what we're talking about right now, is these non-scripted things. I like that the most.
Yes.
But yeah, I just struggle to see. I just see that there's no way Becky is going to lose, no matter how it comes. I just don't.
Yeah, that's fair. The more I think about it, I think you're right there. Let us know again in the comments if you think it's going to be Becky or Charlotte. If you agree that it should be my number one pick or not, let us know how you're feeling about all the animosity, all the interviews going around too, because it's interesting. Let's move on. This is just one we already covered again. Here we go. So now we've got tag teams. RK
Let me just say, I love Randy Orton doing his best EC3 cosplay. I love it.
Poor EC3. Yeah, I mean, I've been a big fan of Randy in this entire run. I like this match a lot on paper. It was very close for me being my number two instead of Reigns versus Big E, honestly. Just because I feel like the Usos are always a solid tag team, right? And I really love what they've done with RK Bro. Love some of Randy's outbursts, the scooter thing. If you haven't seen that video about him yelling about a scooter, it's great. Him apparently wanting to ride a camel and Vince McMahon nixing it. I think Randy's just having a blast, which is what he should do in this situation. But I think Randy having a blast is also best Randy. Like when he's having fun with it and doing his thing, I think that's the only way that a face Randy works for me, is when he clearly is just like having fun with it in real life and it shines through. So I really like this matchup a lot. I think there's going to be a bunch of good spots. I don't know, Drake, your thoughts on it and who you think is going over in this one.
So I agree that this will probably end up being a fun match, but I don't like it. I don't like it from a story perspective on each end, as I believe I've shared my thoughts with you. At least I've told several people about my thoughts on the Usos and kind of the confliction that they've had with Roman, and especially Jimmy, whichever one it was that came back most recently, and that whole thing. It annoyed me a little bit, and then RK Bro doesn't really do it for me. I mean, the thing that annoys me most is how Randy went from being like a literal serial killer, and then to this guy, just the long term of Randy's character, and since like the Edge feud, and then leading to this, just it's too like quick and big of a change for me, story wise. But it has been fun. But I just, I like more consistency for the most part, instead of this radical, dramatic kind of pairing. So from all those aspects, this goes to number 4 for me. But who will go over? I think that's tough. That's very tough. I think probably Randy and Riddle, just because I feel like the Usos it doesn't really matter too much for them anymore. They're consistently in their spot.
Right.
Whereas, RK Bro's a newer thing. So maybe they could use it a little bit more. But we know that WWE doesn't really care about tag teams in general, so it doesn't matter.
That's very true. Yeah, I mean, WWE really doesn't seem to care much about tag teams whatsoever at all. And I agree, if you want to get into the character and the storytelling of Randy specifically, I agree with everything you said. Was a big shift, was very quick, but I've kind of just accepted it, right? Like that's what you have to, right? You have to. So it's kind of like, all right, we're here. And so again, I put this at 3 for me. And that's because honestly, as you said, you don't know who's going to go over here. I could see them having Usos go over and it being, tribal chief family, all this. We're good as we ever have been, dynasty, all that stuff. I could see them putting RK Bro over because they're popular and they're, have more relevancy with their storyline than the Usos at this point.
I feel similar, like what you just said right there, that makes me feel similar to what they should do with Roman and Big E.
Right.
Like it does much more for Big E, and the Usos will be, for RK Bro, it elevates them. Usos will be fine no matter what. Same with Roman, kind of. That's how I compare that.
Yeah, but again, same with the main event, right? That one's a little bit clearer because again, I think you're right. They're going to leave Roman untouched. But this one, I could see them doing the same thing, being like, well, we got to leave the Usos. So I don't know. I would, if I had to guess, I would guess RK Bro's going over, and I think there will be a lot of fun spots in it. So for me, it's 3, and that's tough because the next match and the last match we're going to talk about here is, I would probably tie them at 3 if I could, but this one, what really sells me for this one is here I have no clue who's going over. And the more I think about it, it's still kind of could go either way, which is one of the few matches on this, really is the only match I think where it's that clear as day to me of like, or muddy rather, of I don't know who's going to go over. So, so let's move on to the last one. So this is my number 4, your number 3.
That Boogs picture.
Oh, that Boogs. Oh, that Rick Boogs. Shinsuke Nakamura versus Damien Priest. This match should be fun. Should be a great one. Priest has impressed me. I was not sold on him when he first came on the scene, but he's won me over in a lot of ways. He's had some really good spots. He's done some cool things. Again, imagine this to be a good match as long as it lasts. I could easily see this being cut shorter than the other matches by quite a bit. because any match that's super cool and doesn't have that much relevancy, they love to put on for 4 minutes.
So the secondary titles.
Yeah. But especially this one, because I think that the tag match will get more time than this by a long shot. Tag matches generally do, right? Because you've got more people involved. Yeah. But I also historically, I feel like tag matches they let go on for quite a while, where something like this it could be a 5-6 minute thing, depending on what they want to do.
I will remind you, Pat, that at WrestleMania 20 there was a 4-way tag team match, and it only went about 8 minutes.
And I will remind you, Drake, that was WrestleMania 20 when Vince McMahon was about, I don't know how many years younger, at least a couple decades younger.
I think that was like 2004.
yeah. So nearly a couple decades younger, and he still books mostly how he's always booked, but
I just wanted to throw that bit of knowledge.
Yeah, that's fair. It's fair. It's fair. But I for me, I think they'll probably have RK Bro and Usos go a little bit longer than this. Maybe not, but what are your thoughts on the match in general? Who do you think's going over?
Yeah, I like this one. I always like Shinsuke, and I like that he's kind of had a little bit of a resurgence here, getting the pair-in with the Boog, and, taking on Damien here, who I think is on the up and up. So I would be surprised if he loses this one. Similar feeling kind of to, the Uso and Reigns comparison. I don't think it hurts Shinsuke too much. He's kind of in that perpetual spot now where he is that, unfortunately, never going to be the main champ or that kind of guy. Whereas Priest, there's very clear potential of him being in that spotlight soon, similar to kind of Drew's rise, I would say, if we were to make a comparison, who he beat recently, right? So, yeah, I would be stunned if Priest does not go over here. I think it'll be fun while it lasts. Probably pretty short, like you said, but I just like the collision and freshness of it too. So that's why it is at the spot that it is for me at number 3, right? So
yeah, no, and again, for me, this match and the tag match both I think are going to be fun matches to watch, and this is particularly is a little bit more fresh. The tiebreaker for me is that tag match. I really don't know who they'll put over, whereas this one, if they don't put over Priest, I will be flabbergasted,
right?
Because that would be, I mean, they've done booking like that before, and it has been like ridiculous. But I don't see that happening. I see Priest, getting a clean win, and strengthening his run as US champion and getting more of a push. Because you're right. I think the minute he drops that US title, I think he's going into main event status, and they're pretty much grooming him for that right now. So yeah, I think it's pretty much Priest all day on this one. So that wraps up the card. You have our rankings. Let us know your thoughts. Were we way off base with some of these? Were you pissed off that we misstated things because we don't watch nearly as much WWE weekly shows as we probably should? Let us know. Should we? Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah. I mean, if you are a WWE fan that hates people that are about AEW, we've waited until the end of this video to just reveal that we're much more about. Yeah, spoiler alert. We're much more at AEW. But with that being said, let us know your thoughts on Survivor Series. What match are you looking forward to the most? Do you agree with our rankings? We were a little bit different. Had a couple of similar rankings there. We both put the 5 matches at the bottom. Do you think they should be there? Would you elevate them to the top? Do you like the main event, women and men's, being at 1 and 2 for both of us? I mean, where's that come down to all of that? Let us know.
Our matches are right next to each other, just like over the other ones.
just inverse. Let us know what you think about all this. Hit the like button, subscribe, bell notification, all that. And yeah, should be hopefully a good pay-per-view. Don't know that it's going to be what Full Gear accomplished last weekend, but we'll see. I mean, WWE, let's see if you can step up your game.
Let's hope that Undertaker is the mystery person
on the women's team, ideally.
Yes.